Rooster's Cafe is a coffee house at Carleton University where students can go to chat, drink tea, and relax after class. But last Wednesday, the cafe became the scene for activist groups to gather, sing, and discuss social issues. They sat in groups with poems in their hands and guitars on their laps. One by one, they approached the microphone. One of the groups was HOLAS, the humanitarian organization of Latin American students at Carleton. HOLAS organized the event at Roosters to help network with others who shared their views. Their job is to inform students about Latin American culture and spread awareness about global poverty. To one end of the room, tables full of cookies and cupcakes were lined up for donations. To the other side, photos of Latin American children covered the windows. In the middle, students sat and listened to the soulful melodies of those on stage. Bringing people together wasn't the only goal on Wednesday night. HOLAS is also hosting events to raise money for a project to build an orphanage in Honduras. This project has been in the works since last year. The goal is to reach $15,000 by the end of the semester. Jorge Alonso is a member of HOLAS. He says this orphanage will become the home for more than 15 Honduran children.
Our rush to raise the money right now is because as soon as we collect the money, we can start building the house. So if we start building the house, a month, 2 months, the house is going to be ready for the kids. They are orphans. Like if you go to Latin America, there are kids that live on the streets. Everywhere in Latin America. I'm from Colombia and I see kids living on the street all the time. They don't have parents. They don't have anybody to take care of them. And we want to stop that.
The group has organized several events this past year to raise money. Now they are inching closer to their goal. Gabriel Pinto is the president of HOLAS.
We're having a party on the 4th at Oliver's. It's going to be called Mini Locura, and pretty much this is going to be our last fundraiser for the semester where we'll hopefully be able to close up the $15,000, and right now we're $2,000 short. So we really hope people can come out and support this cause.
Gabriel says it's important to show students where their money is going. He says the project was inspired by a man from Honduras named Kiki Rodriguez. Years ago, Rodriguez was an orphan living in poverty in Honduras. Today, he is visiting university campuses across the country to raise awareness. Last month, Rodriguez came to Carleton to inform students about the project. Gabriel says having his voice made all the difference.
It was extremely mind-opening because it was an individual who, he is an orphan. He embodies the whole community, the orphanage that we're trying to help. So having him come here was extremely the closest touch that we could have to the orphanage without having to go there. He wanted to really speak out to the student, let them know about the reality of the country, let them know about what's happening and how we're able to help as students for this cause.
HOLAS is also working with Friends of Honduran Children, a group based in Peterborough. Alison Grierson is the office coordinator at the organization. She's working with another group in Honduras to build the orphanage, but says they've had trouble raising the money. But the help from HOLAS made a big difference.
Main obstacle was they didn't raise enough to finish the house, so then we're now in a position where we're trying to come up with the money to finish this house. So that's why it's great that the group of students at Carleton are, working so hard to fundraise, and hopefully they'll be able to help us out with it.
Now it's up to HOLAS to reach students for help. Gabriel says music and art are the ways to do that.
Art is something that touches people's hearts because it's one of the few things that can really touch someone through their emotions, can make them feel angry, can make them feel sad, can really push them to be inspired into something. And these are also social tools that we can use to get people together.
Though there's still work to be done, group members are looking ahead.
I'm full of hope. So I know we're going to finish this semester, and probably next semester we're going to start with another project. We have to.
For Midweek, I'm Holly Clark. On Friday, dozens of people gathered on Parliament Hill
Dickinson Square, home to 5 heritage buildings, has been called the heart of Manotick. Last year, the City of Ottawa bought and rebuilt the buildings, but didn't put them to use. Now, citizens are wondering what's in store for the square's future. Holly Clark visited the square on Sunday to find out.
Development in the short term for our budgets to get that number up. And so in the short
Welcome
term,
to Dickinson Square, home of the historical Watson's Mill. It sits just off the Rideau River in the small town of Manotick. The mill was carved from limestone, cut from the river's bed. Built by Moss Kent Dickinson in 1860, the mill runs only on water, grounding wheat into flour. That was almost 150 years ago, but today the mill is still the center of business in Manotick. To the people of Manotick, it has also become a center of cultural identity. This Thanksgiving weekend, people across Ontario were invited to tour the mill and find out how things work. With classroom presentations, they push students to stand up. As the gears crunch and the floorboard shake, Winter Truman guides the group to the old Dickinson house.
House is right across the street, and it is called the Dickinson House for obvious reasons.
There, Coral Lindsay, a longtime volunteer at Dickinson Square, awaits their arrival.
Before, yes, hi. I cooked for you again. Who's cooking the turkey?
Coral has been living in Manotick her whole life. At the square, her job is to inform people about the history of the Dickinson family.
Big change for the house, because if you look up there on the front step, they had 5 boys and 1 girl.
Coral is one of the many Manotick residents that have witnessed changes to the square. Just last year, the City of Ottawa bought the square from the Rideau Valley Conservation Authority. Along with Watson's Mill and the old Dickinson house, the city now owns the Ayers Building and the Weaver's House. Coral says this was a good idea.
This was a wonderful decision on the part of the city, because developers or other people might not have appreciated what we have here. This is a gem, one of the best locations for tourists and heritage buffs and other people.
The city rebuilt each building in the square, but aside from summer tours, none of the buildings hold any use to the public. That is, except for Watson's Mill, which Coral says is the catalyst that brings people to the square. Right now, city councilors are preparing to decide what will be in store for the remaining heritage buildings. Coral says that whatever they decide, Dickinson Square should remain a historical landmark.
I would like to see the house return to as it was when the Dickinsons were here. But until we know the future and have a little more sense of security that the house may be restored as a period house, which will not cost a great deal of money, we're just not sure of the future, but we're looking forward to a good decision on the part of the city.
Cam Truman is the Education and Programming Officer at Watson's Mill. He says there's a reason for preserving old buildings like these.
I think buildings like this and milling operations are sort of a testament to our past. They give us a sense of identity, of who we are and how we became. Places like this were a social center, and that's really an important reason to keep it going.
Cam says he thinks the square will be like the mill, flourishing with history, but offering something to the public.
The move is to not just preserve this building, but preserve the other buildings around the area and create a heritage square. I would see it diversifying like everything else. You should have a little bit of heritage, you should have a little bit of interpretation, you should have a little bit of entrepreneurship, you should have a little bit of historical rediscovery.
Hi, how are you? Hi, Coral.
Welcome to the Dickinson house.
These lovers of the square have hopeful intentions. The question is, does the city have the same? Bonnie Gray is the manager of Watson's Mill Manotick Inc. She's also a part of the recently formed Mill Quarter Board, which will decide the square's future. She says the buildings will have to pay for themselves, which means making back the money council originally spent. This number neared $1.4 million. While commercial investment is on the square's horizon, Gray says maintaining its essence is still possible.
There certainly can be. I mean, there's all kinds of things that can be sort of a commercial base, but, fit with that. I mean, they had general stores previously, old-fashioned candy stores, ice cream stores.
Bonnie says the council still needs to meet and nothing is official, but residents shouldn't have to worry.
They are intending to put historical easements on all of the properties so that the exteriors of the buildings, etc., will remain as they are, that they cannot be changed, which all adds to the ambiance of what it is.
In the meantime, Dickinson Square volunteers will continue to do what they do best.
Yes, we are working hard, but it's a labor of love.
For Midweek, I'm Holly Clark.
My name's Tyler. I live in Little Italy. I don't really know many other neighborhoods in Ottawa, but I really like this one because it's got a very vibrant culture.
My name is Natalie and I live in Chinatown. It's different from other neighborhoods because people are friendly.
My name's Brendan. I live in the Pean, and the Pean's different because people say hi to each other.
Everyone has something to say about where they live, but not always about where they don't. This winter, people will get to learn about the different faces of Ottawa. The Bytown Museum is hosting a new exhibit called Your Neighborhood, Your Voice. The exhibit will feature 2 photographs taken by residents living in each neighborhood, one showing its good side and one showing its bad. Elizabeth Christensen began the project and says these photos will have quite the impact.
The idea is that people know their neighborhoods best. They know what's important to them. It shows our city, the good things about it, the beauty that's here, but it also shows things that we need to change, and I think people should care about that.
Christensen says these pictures will bring each community closer, but also says there's a bigger picture.
It's also important to bring issues to the attention of politicians and people who can take action in a new and novel way. A picture really shows people what's going on, the reality.
Either way, this winter, Ottawa citizens will have a clear picture of their city. For Midweek, I'm Holly Clark.
End poverty and inequality now.
On Friday, dozens of people gathered on Parliament Hill for the Stand Up, Take Action campaign. Together, they stood up and spoke a pledge, demanding that world leaders act now to end poverty in Canada and around the world. Paul Dewar, the NDP MP for Ottawa Centre, was one of them.
We're way far behind, so we need to ask our governments to put money into development in the short term for our budgets to get that number up. And so in the short term, what it means is that, very concrete proposals on more and better aid. And in the long term, it means to sustain that.
Dewar also says that change has to happen from the bottom up.
Change only happens when you actually have grassroots movements and people and citizens pushing it. Because, we can do so much at the federal level, but we need to connect with those who are down on the ground, dealing with these problems, either personally affected or working with those who are affected.
Grassroots groups across the city also did their part. Students to End Extreme Poverty are a group at Carleton University. With classroom presentations, they push students to stand up. Tyler Braun is a member of Students to End Extreme Poverty.
I went to 2 classes in the morning on Friday, and in both classes, every single person in the class either stood up or signed up for the event, and the enthusiasm was amazing.
Next year, world leaders will meet at the G8 summit to sit and discuss the goals. Until then, grassroots protesters will continue to stand. From Midweek, I'm Holly Clark.